In the studio now. Good morning, Prime Minister. Welcome
morning,
to
Sam.
Sunrise. Now, news polls suggesting any honeymoon periods that you and Labor were having is now well and truly over. How do you feel about that?
Well, Sam, I'm a fighter, and there are many things worth fighting for in this election campaign. You know what they are? I'm passionate about jobs. For all your viewers, they're going to have jobs next year. We've got some plans to make sure that's the case. I'm passionate about hospitals. Been talking about that in the last 24 hours. Plans for new accident emergency wards, new cancer care centres. Passionate about better schools. Passionate about whether they all get NBN, broadband for everybody, not just for some. So this is a fight worth having. And if you looked at my political career in the past, it hasn't always been easy. And I've been written off many, many times before. Okay. And Koshi and I were at the football on Saturday. Koshi, in this campaign, we're still in the second quarter. Okay. And there's a ways to go yet. And I noticed you're a bit anxious during the second quarter.
Yeah, definitely. You say you're a fighter, and that's reflected in the attack ads from Labor overnight. Take a look.
If Tony Abbott is elected Prime Minister, families will lose the school kids bonus, and low-income workers will lose their increased super contributions. If he wins, you lose.
Look, at the start of the campaign, you said this would be a positive campaign. Why do you put on ads like that?
Well, Koshi, what I said is that our ads would be policy-based. I stand by every one of those examples put in that spotlight advertisement. You know why? Because this affects real people's lives. This is not about negativity, it's about accountability. You've been here interviewing various people from the other side in recent weeks. You've never been able to extract from them where their $70 billion worth of cuts will fall, which jobs will go in health and education and schools and across the economy. The car industry in South Australia, gone. So what we're doing in this is very simple. It's accountability. It says, what's going to happen to your job when Mr. Abbott says he's going to cut thousands, tens of thousands of jobs? It's a fair question. The second thing it says is, what about the Better Schools plan? Mr. Abbott says he's going to cut at least $8 billion out of that. What about the future of the Fair Work Act, which he says he will change? It protects people's penalty rates and overtime. And it asks basic things like, what about the future of the national broadband network, which they will cut to pieces. So you might say it's negative. Yep. We say it's putting the spotlight on what Australia would be like if Mr. Abbott became Prime Minister. And I think that's a very fair and accountable question when their political strategy essentially is just to evade the detail of that, sneak through to the election, and then afterwards, you know what? Well, our Commission of Audit says we've got to cut and cut. Sorry about that. There's a case study of that. It's called Queensland.
But your policies aren't mentioned in those ads. And we were talking about this a little earlier. At home, as a viewer, when I'm sitting in my lounge room, those negative campaigns, I know they're a part of an election campaign, but I turn the sound down because they're so negative, and I think, and a lot of people in here said the same thing. Do you think Australians still like these attack ads, as we
I think
call
what Australians want is people to be fair, dinkum and accountable. And you talk about what we are standing for as positive political leaders in the country. I've been out there for a long time explaining what is our vision for building jobs. The last week may not have been reported everywhere. I've been talking about how do we build jobs in the Territory through a special economic zone? How do we expand agribusiness in the Ord by bringing on Ord Stage 3? Bring new airlines in from China to boost tourism in North Queensland? How do we grow the new manufacturing industries and high skills ones in the future, like here in Sydney at the Hearing Hub, which is a brilliant new piece of technology which can create thousands of new jobs. So we're doing all of that, and to put it further into context, our opponents are outspending us in this campaign in ads 10 to 1 on negative ads. And you ask, before you said about polls and the rest. Koshi, if you were in the firing line for 2 weeks of wall-to-wall negative attacks on yourself, you know something? It would probably have an impact on what people thought about you. Yep. Now, we're returning fire. Okay. And we're turning fire based on policy facts.
Let's get in your reaction on a couple of things being reported. The Australian saying you're preferencing Craig Thompson ahead of 4 other candidates in the seat of DeBell. He's facing 170 charges, of course. Are you doing that?
The preference arrangement in Dobell is Labor number 1, then we preference the Greens, then we preference an independent. I don't know who we preference next. He's way down the ticket, and our universal practice is this. Okay. For the first 2 or 3 folks that we're preferencing, we go 1, 2, 3, but for ease of people reading a how to vote card, we then go straight down the page. Okay. Mr Abbott, by the way, said he'd always put the Greens last. Look, today you'll find the Greens are not last on every Liberal how to vote card.
All
right. Tony Abbott's announced a generous 26-week paid parental leave scheme. Can Labor offer a similar situation to women?
You know something? We have a carefully planned, carefully costed, affordable scheme which is already out there, and it's supported 300,000 families, the first ever paid parental leave scheme in Australia. The problem with Mr Abbott's scheme is that he cannot fund it unless he cuts jobs, health and hospitals across the rest of the economy. If you read the response from all the economists this morning, they say it's not costed properly, it's unaffordable, and achieves none of the policy objectives which have been set. So the big challenge is this: how many jobs will Mr Abbott have to cut in health and hospital sector, in the school sector, in critical services to the Australian community, in order to make up the funding necessary to support his PPL scheme, including cutting every one of those 1.3 million families, your viewers out there, who currently get a school kids bonus. Mr Abbott's elected, that's gone. So it's a bit like giving to some people with one hand, but taking a whole lot more with the other. OK, you've used a big stick, though, in a bid to lift immunisation rates. You plan to punish parents who choose not to vaccinate their children by withholding family tax benefit A. Pretty hardline approach. It is hardline, and Koshi, we don't apologise for it. I think one of the great barbecue stoppers around Australia at the moment, if you go to local parent meetings, is people are concerned about their kids at school and whether everyone is properly immunised. I'm now a grandparent. I remember our kids going to school when the jabs came. No one likes to see their kid cry when they get their first jabs, particularly when they're so little. But it is so safe. What we want to make sure is that when every parent sends their kid to school, they can feel secure that practically all the other kids in that class and that school have been immunised. Yep.
Mr Rudd, we have to go, but really quickly, second debate this Wednesday in Brisbane, your hometown. We have to talk about the note. Are you going to ditch the notes this time?
Well, someone told me last time that you weren't supposed to bring notes on. You think I would have in front of X million viewers said, well, here are my notes. For God's sake, I mean, let's get real about this. Okay. By the way, I noticed your Channel 7 offer for a debate has been rejected by Mr Abbott. Channel 9 offer for a debate rejected by Mr Abbott. Channel 10, ABC. So we're now on to pay television with a very small viewing audience. I think it's about being a little bit evasive on the part of Mr Abbott, hence the Spotlight campaign.
Yep. OK. All right, good to see you.
Thank you.